So full disclosure, we're going to Photoshop some cleavage on you in the thumbnail.
Excellent. I
Because
mean, I've never really showed any in videos, so this will be a
you
first.
haven't? Why not?
No, the internet will go crazy. I'm just a nice
Exactly!
conservative girl, you know.
You hang out with Theron Meyer and Milo Yiannopoulos. No one thinks of you as a good conservative girl. And a boom, da bada bing. This is a web extended version, and so you can be as profane as you were off air. Though I thought your comments about Mexicans was a little far, even for me. So Lauren, um, so are they actually spending $80 million in Canada housing these illegal immigrants or these
Let me
refugees?
get the exact number. I did a video on this, and I still can't remember the exact number. What do you have Gay Jared there for? Isn't he supposed to be looking up all these stats for me or something?
No, that's actually Courtney.
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, everything's above his pay grade technically.
That's true.
But he does some things.
All right, I will Google
Mostly
this.
incorrectly.
I don't know what he does half the time. I really don't. But it's usually pretty not gay. But we'll be meeting with Milo here. He's coming out this next month. We have a big video with him, and so he'll be a litmus test.
Oh, so not 80 million. It's 1.2 billion.
Oh, okay. So you just forgot to carry the one.
Yes.
Oh gosh. I mean, 1.2 billion. People don't understand in the United States. That's a lot of money for Canada. That's
Yeah.
that's probably like the net worth of your top 20 guys combined. Which is always bizarre to me when I see entrepreneurs in Canada, like, when you see Dragon's Den. I'm like, because when we went, my aunt died, and we had to go back to Montreal for a funeral. And the one thing that really stood out, my mom was French Canadian her whole life, was she just said the hopelessness. She said, everyone I know works the exact same job. They do the exact same routine. She's like, people just don't really take risks or start businesses or innovate. It just doesn't, you just feel lighter in the States, is what she said. And this is, you just feel more like the hair, she's French Canadian. So she's French Canadian her whole life. And she said that. Do you feel that even in Western Canada? I mean, do you just feel there's a rugged individual spirit that isn't shared with some Canadians as you get in the States?
I live right by the border, and I used to go across the border all the time because I had a friend down there, a couple friends that lived down there, and you feel the freedom waft over you when you cross that border. But no, everything costs significantly less. It's insane, our taxation, and people say our healthcare system is excellent. It is not. That is a myth, and you know that better than anyone.
Yeah.
With your video, but it's very different. I've spent a lot of time in the States with friends there, and just the cost of everything. Yeah, the freedom, the job availability, very, very different. Everyone kind of, you're right, has their set track of, I'm just going to do this, go to school, keep my head down, work for this business, we're set.
Right.
Not a lot of the American dream feel in Canada.
Yeah, it is. Well, we used to go across the border to Plattsburgh, New York, which is like this just podunk town, which probably, if you're going across the border, probably not nearly as cool of a town as Vancouver. But as a Canadian, you're just like, oh, they have all this cool stuff that we don't have yet. So when we were kids, it was like Old Navy and Taco Bell. I'm sure now it's something else. And we just thought the United States was the land of really cool stuff, And yeah, it was a different feeling. We'd go there and get our N64 games. I know you're a gamer. It's like $20 less per game when we'd go to the States. Like, they were like, you pay $79 for video games? I was like, yeah, that's what we paid. Like, that's almost as much as the system here. Do you think Canadians are I thought they were kind of waking up, but now it's gone back.
We've got a big problem with that, actually, because we've got a, what is it? Costco right across the border. And everyone just drives to the border near me, like, first thing in the morning. It's like a 2-hour wait. And they just go across and they get all of the milk they can, get all of the products they can, and drive back across. So it's like, they're always talking about that. And gas, exactly. Because they've got the gas station right by the Costco set up. And our local BC government is always talking about that. Oh, we need to deal with this problem of everyone going across the border and shopping. And it's never the other way around. The Americans don't want to shop here. If you want to go back, like, there is no line at all. You guys can go look up the Langley Aldergrove border if you want. There are live images. I'm not lying. Like, there's always a huge line going into the States. Never one coming back.
I feel like it's just a bunch of, like... What?
Except at the end of the day when everyone's done shopping.
Yeah. I feel like it's just like a bunch of Sally Fields and Not Without My Daughter, like putting their daughters in head coverings. Like, we just want the bulk ground beef at Costco. It's That being said, I always would talk to people in Plattsburgh and like Burlington, Bernie Sanders town. I'd be like, hey, listen, there are amazing restaurants. Like, you should absolutely go visit Montreal. It's a cultural enclave. There's tons that you don't want to live there. There's a ton to experience. And a lot of Americans just don't even consider it. I mean, Vancouver, I've never actually been to Vancouver, but I've heard how beautiful it is. And that's also just sort of indicative. It doesn't even cross most Americans' minds, even if they're right across the border in sort of a podunk town.
Well, they've got towns or they've got cities similar to Vancouver that they can go to that are significantly cheaper and bigger. But Vancouver, I love Vancouver. It is beautiful. There's lots of stuff to do there. It's just very expensive.
Are you ever planning on moving to the States? I know Milo, it's possibly in the cards for him. I mean, with someone with your mindset, it seems like an inevitable possibility.
Possibly when I finish school. Depends who wins your election, though.
Oh, God.
To be honest, if you get Bernie, it's not happening.
Well, if I get Trump either, I wouldn't recommend coming here. Trump, Bernie, or Hillary. Anyone who's not that, you should be good. Matter of fact, Trump would probably be very, very tough for Canada because of...
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, because of the trade deals and just how we've been in a war. He tries to leverage everything. He's not really interested in a business deal unless there's some kind of larceny involved, if you look at his history. And with Canada, it's sort of been a really amicable relationship, as far as, commerce goes. And I don't think that would be happening anymore. Which
See, this is a dilemma I'm in right now because I tend to love people who are hated by everyone.
Right.
And I love that Trump is ruffling feathers. And I just love the fact that if I even mention his name, people lose their shit. So, but I understand, like, he's got some crazy policies that he wants to implement. Banning the internet, just the things that he says. He's a chaos candidate, as Jeb Bush would put it.
Right. Well, I
he's
think
very funny. I like him as a person, maybe not necessarily as a presidential.
I understand
leader.
that, and I understand the value. I was going to talk with Gavin about this. I understand the value in someone who's shaking up the race. I get it. But the problem, well, first off, you mention Trump, people go crazy. If you mention anything even remotely critical of Trump, people go crazy.
That's true.
So if you mention that he was a lifelong Democrat, people go crazy. If you mention that he's given far, far, far more to the Clintons than he's ever given to any Republican or you go crazy. If you mention that he's given far, far more to far left organizations than he's ever given to conservative charities or even a church, people get mad. So the long history is, listen, he's a dishonest, likely immoral, let's say amoral Democrat. That's the history we have on Donald Trump. And he claims to be something different now. But this is you're a Star Wars fan, right?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Well, I won't get into it because you'll lose your cred with the Gamergate people. I'm not either. I haven't seen the new one. But here's the thing that really concerns me about Donald Trump. And you tell me what you think about this. Because I do. I tend to side with people who are vilified. Because usually if they're vilified by media, you're like, okay, there's something here. Every decision he's made in this campaign, every single one, is made out of anger or vengefulness. So, Ted Cruz, he's great. I love Ted Cruz. He's copying my campaign. Ted Cruz starts winning in the polls. Ted Cruz is a maniac. Ben Carson, hey, bro, high five. I love Ben Carson. I love Dr. Ben Carson. He's a great guy. Ben Carson leads in the polls. It's like he's pathological. It's like a pedophile, Ben Carson. You can't do the Ben Carson. Hillary Clinton loves Hillary Clinton, praises her. She turns on him. Hillary Clinton sucks. She's terrible. She's awful. Let's go to even people who don't matter. Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's great. She's a great female champion. She loves Trump. Ronda Rousey responds, oh, I'm really glad. Thanks for Trump's support. I probably won't vote for him, but that's nice of him. Then she loses. So glad to see Ronda Rousey get knocked out. Not a nice person. Every single decision is made out of anger. He may be friends with Putin now. All Putin needs to do is beat him at a game of golf, and we're in World War III. Does that stand to reason as a concern?
Well, obviously it does. But think about this. You're going to have an option between Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and who else do you think is going to win the
any of them. Any of them would beat Hillary. Cruz Cruz, Rubio would have a much better. I mean, the one we know is a guaranteed loss is Trump against Hillary, statistically. So the best chance at winning is Rubio. Is he the best candidate? I'll leave that to the listeners to decide. There are some glaring flaws there, but yeah, he's the weakest to put up against Hillary.
Because I'm in the safety of Canada, and I say that
yes,
kind of safety of Canada. I just always like imagine 4 years of the media just blowing up with this crazy president. It would just be hilarious for me to watch. But you're right; it might be a disaster for you guys.
Yeah, it's the only time where I've talked with Jared where I know I'll get people mad here. I wouldn't vote. I would vote for anyone not named Trump. And the reason is if Hillary wins, and I think she'll be horrible, I can live with not having had a part in it, not having voted. If I vote for Trump and he wins and he does some of the tyrannical things that he basically has claimed he would do, he's since reversed some of them. I can't live with that on my conscience. I can't live with rights being removed. I can't live with lives being lost, with people being rounded up and put in FEMA camps, things that he's openly said he would do. I can't live with having voted for that. I can sleep at night if I didn't vote for it and it happens. So, and I know people
So
get...
you think Trump would be worse for rights and civil liberties than the Democrats? What about like Bernie
No,
Sanders
I didn't
versus
say
Trump?
that. I think it could be
Straw man.
as bad. No, not a straw man. I understand what you're, but I'm saying I think it could be as bad. The difference is I can live with not having voted for it if it's Hillary. I can't live knowing that I voted for all Muslims in internment camps. I can't live with myself knowing that I voted for selectively prosecuting anyone who dissents against Trump, myself included, and my friends who have said anything critical about Trump. Guarantee you in auditing. He's all but implied that. I can't pull the lever myself in clear conscience and do it. I can not pull the lever, and it's a moral issue. And listen, McCain wasn't a fan. Romney wasn't a fan. People can go back. I always supported someone else up until that point. I didn't think they could win, but it wasn't a moral compromise, and that I believed they could inherently be evil people. And I sincerely believe that about Donald Trump. I know that about Hillary Clinton, but I don't think Stephen Harper. I've never voted for who I believe could be an evil person. So I know, believe me, I think it's a generational thing.
Well, you look at what happened in Canada, and I thought that the Conservatives were going to get at least a minority. But what happened is the Conservatives were in government, and I was in my campus bar at college when this happened, just surrounded by students, and you just see the map of Canada go red from coast to coast, entirely liberal. It was insane. They won a huge majority. Everyone was just going crazy. Everyone in my campus bar is cheering, and I'm just like, another shot, just like the apocalypse is happening. But you're right, it is generational, but you look at what happened, and it was insane mass liberal win. So I can't have my hopes up again and think that a Bernie Sanders couldn't win.
But I mean, do you think he could win the primary against Hillary? Do you think he has a chance?
Well, the thing is, Hillary is the establishment candidate, so that would be pretty crazy if he did. But if he did, dear God, you guys could be in trouble.
Well, yeah, he's the one where I would move. I would. If it's Bernie Sanders, I move. Everyone else, I'm like, I won't be happy with it, and let's see what happens. Bernie Sanders, I absolutely move. I mean, I'm not putting in 14-hour days right now to build up everything we do so that he can take 90%.
Where would you move to?
Gosh, I can't move to Canada anymore, right?
Nope.
Panama? I don't know. I haven't given it thought.
Picture you like a little house, like on Up, like on the brink of nowhere.
Forget that. What's the name of that wonder of the world?
Something Falls, something Paradise Falls.
Not Pikachu. Pikachu Peak is in Arizona. You know what I'm talking? Machu Picchu. Is that what it is? Machu Picchu. Am I pronouncing it correctly? I don't.
All right, Gay Jared, we are going on a balloon house, or you're fired.
Yes.
Or sorry, not Gay Jared.
Yes, I was going to correct you.
Yeah,
Believe
I
me,
appreciate that.
You don't want that kind of legal heat, Lauren. I just find it telling that you and I both mentioned Bernie Sanders in the same breath. And, if you listen to AM radio and conservatives are like, Bernie Sanders is just put up there to make Hillary look good. It's not true. He's a legitimate candidate with a very serious following. Okay, so it wouldn't be a Lauren Southern interview if we didn't talk about the boobage and gender politics. So I just figured that'll be the title. Will be
the boobage and
boobs,
gender politics.
And we're gonna Photoshop you so it looks like you're in.
You have to spell it correctly though. B00
BEW
BEW. That's right.
Bidge. So full disclosure, we're gonna Photoshop some cleavage on you in the thumbnail.
Excellent.
Because
I've never really showed any in videos, so this will be a first.
You haven't? Why not?
No, the internet will go crazy.
Exactly.
I'm just a nice conservative girl,
You hang out with Theron Meyer and Milo Yiannopoulos. No one thinks of you as a good conservative girl.
Don't tell them. It's all an image.
Okay. But it does. That's one thing you want to talk about. We were talking about this. You want to talk about privilege? Attractive women. I want to hear you admit this. Attractive women have a distinct advantage when it comes to social media in the avatar game.
Excuse me, Stephen, but beauty is subjective.
Oh, come on. That's why you have the cat's eye going on.
Objective. Wait, I've done this wrong.
No. Yeah, well, you're trying to say subjective that
Subjective,
everyone
yes.
has a...
Everyone judges beauty differently, you know.
No.
And you don't even know if I identify as trans ugly, so you're being extremely bigoted right now, and I'm just very offended.
That's a good point. You may identify as trans ugly until it comes time to pay for drinks. Then I'm willing to bet you drop the moniker. Yeah, I mean, it is true, though. I mean, Jared and I were talking about, especially like when I was single, I would scan through, who's following me? Oh, attractive lady. Click. And I know that's why most guys put attractive women in their Twitter avatars. People are still more likely to click it. So if we want to, I can't remember where I read this. Maybe we can bring it up on screen. Something like 5 times more likely to click on an avatar of an attractive woman than if it's just.
It's with hiring too. It's with everything. You know, we never talk about uglyism for some reason. And I think it's because of this liberal idea of beauty is subjective. We can't say anyone is more or less beautiful. Look at the models are like 400 pounds now of ladies that are like Tess Hollidays. You've got that are.
We have a video going up. She attacked me. She wrote a note to me on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an open letter like, I don't give... Yeah, this is web extension. She's like, you can kiss my fat ass. I don't give a shit what you think. And it's like, well, you do give a shit what I think. That's why you get naked and try and sell millions of magazine covers, because you care what guys think.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's why they don't want to talk about uglyism. I think even though I've gotten hired for waitressing, hosting jobs because I've got blonde hair. I know it, like, because of what I look like. I've not gotten hired for jobs as well because I'm not quite... They've told me, they're like, well, you don't have a certain look. I'm sorry. Like, I guess I didn't come in a tight enough dress with enough push-up bras on, right?
It's always advised to do that.
It's always advised to do that. I've worked in serving. I've worked in waitressing. I know what it's like. I know who they hire and who they don't hire immediately as they come through the door. But if it's by race or gender or religion, everyone freaks out. But
yeah, you know, actually, we have a rule, my wife and I. If it comes to returns, I look at the clerk and I go, okay, if it's a middle-aged woman, that's my bag. For some reason, I have a high batting average with like 40 to 60-year-old women. If it's a guy, she always does it. If we're looking to have a return or something's wrong with the meal, I'm like, nope, it's a guy. That's you. And if it's an older woman, it's me. It's just a higher success rate. Just people react differently, and it's just reality. There was that episode of Seinfeld. I don't know if you remember when Jerry had that attractive girlfriend, and anytime he needed something done, he would just send her, and it would get done immediately.
I do remember that. It's
so true, and I don't like, but it doesn't make. I'm not upset about it. I get it, you know. Anyway, we're off into the weeds. I was talking about Twitter avatars. So okay, but gender politics. Why in Canada, as a young woman, what made you who you are? Like it doesn't make sense. In Canada, you're young, you're a pretty girl, you're in Vancouver. Why are you not a topless liberal feminist?
Why am I not going to free the nipple parades?
Yes. Right. They've been enslaved for far too long, Lauren. Mine particularly in a cage of hair.
I think you did that. You did the free the nipple at the feminist protest. You wore the diaper.
It wasn't a diaper. It was tighty whities. How dare you?
Tighty whities. It was wonderful.
It was a lot of pairs of tighty whities. We had to. It's insurance.
This is true because we went and we're like, okay, and I'll let you. But what happened was, feminists, right? They'll just claim rape at anything. And I was like, okay, if by some chance my zub falls out through the flap here, goes through the gate, I'm gonna be done. So I put on 3 pairs of tighty whities. Just to make sure. I mean, otherwise, unless my wiener's like the corner super soaker that can go around corners, it was zigzagging out of there. So that's why we had 3 tighty whities, and I have a very large posterior, but it was not a diaper. So okay, but we'll go back to what made you you?
Oh man, see, that's a tough question because I think every time I'm asked why I'm an anti-feminist, I give a different answer because there's just been so many different instances in my life that have affected this. Whether it be, I think you'll definitely believe this happened, but I was volunteering for the Conservative Party when I was younger because I grew up in a conservative Christian household, or at least my father was conservative. My mother doesn't do much politics.
Okay.
And I volunteered for the party before I was libertarian, and they needed someone to go on TV for them on the local BC News. And there was this guy who was beside me who was a wonderful political commentator. He was already in university. I was still in high school. And they kind of look at me and they're like, okay, you're going on, Lauren. And I'm like, oh, I don't get why, but okay, great. I'll go on TV, even though there's someone far more qualified right beside me. Didn't quite click yet. And I get an interview with French TV, and the French interviewer, this is after I've done a few things on the other channel, and I'm just getting all these interviews with this far more qualified man beside me. They bring me on, and the interviewer literally looks at me, and he's like, you do know why you're going on TV, right? And I'm like, no. He's like, it's because you're young and you are a woman. That is the only reason you're going on TV. And I'm just...
Did he actually think that's the only reason?
Yeah, that's
So he's basically saying you're an idiot.
and it just kind of crushed me. Well, I was in high school, and they were putting me. Yeah, it just like crushed me for a minute as this moment of realization stepped in, and I realized this guy beside me
It washed over you.
suffering listening to me when he's like, "Oh, I probably would have said this or this or this." Well, I'm on all of these different stations,
Right?
Because I'm a woman.
Well, yeah, and the Republicans do that too if they trot out like, like a 13-year-old or something as a gimmick. They always I just get really weirded out when kids are used. I just don't like it. It's just, to me, it's like Hoggle from Labyrinth. It's unnatural.
They had me on the show, and then they did a kind of... I was on the youth panel that you guys can look at. There's like a video on I can't remember. But they brought on a 12-year-old for the Liberals. They're just like, oh, damn it, those conservatives have like a 16, 17-year-old. Let's get this 12-year-old.
12 is younger than 16.
He's seen
I'm
Captain
sitting
Planet. He's prepared.
We're in the green room, and this chick is there with her mother, and they're kind of doing interviews for the newspaper as well. Because like, oh my goodness, kids in politics, this is impossible. And the mother's like, I've had no influence on her at all. I've told her nothing. She just looked up on her own, and I'm just sitting there like, are you kidding me? Like, she is obviously lying, guys.
Right.
And
Well, I had to introduce him at CPAC, Jonathan Crone, and I got so much flack. Because I remember talking with actually Ann Coulter back then and saying this kid, and I said on Red Eye with CNN's Mark Lamont Hill and Greg Gutfeld back then, and I said, Jonathan Crone is probably going to be a pot-smoking hippie at Berkeley in about 5 years' time. And I was right about everything except he went to Columbia. So I knew this. I said this about the night before. I got a bunch of flack from conservatives saying, you're not supporting conservative youth, blah, blah, blah. And I've had it happen since then to I can't remember his name, a kid who was Ted Cruz and then switched to Bernie Sanders, I think. That's CJ
Pearson.
CJ Pearson. So same thing. I just not negative. I'm like, listen, let's just not deal in gimmicks. A lot of these kids are just regurgitating what they've heard. And almost invariably, they all go through their college phase and become liberal because they don't really know what they believe. So Jonathan Crone, I did this, but then the next day I found out I had to introduce him at CPAC. So it's like I've said all this crap, but he it was past his bedtime, so he didn't hear it. But I'm there, and his mom was very nice. She looked like the costume lady in The Incredibles. Do you know The Incredibles?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what she looked like. That's her mom.
big glasses.
And he comes in, and he's like, he's kind of impressed with himself. He's like, Bill Bennett is a very good friend of mine. He's like a morning host. And I was like, okay, that's cool. He's like, so what do you do? I was like, well, I kind of do some online videos and stuff. I never really tell people what I do. He's like, well, yeah, but why are you here? I was like, well, I've been a Fox News contributor for a couple of years. Oh, Fox News. And he wanted to get booked. And so I went out, and I didn't insult him, but I can never be dishonest. And I just said, he wrote this book. He's friends with Bill Bennett, and I have skivvies older than him. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Crone. And I brought him out, and I got so much flack for it. But now I feel like I've kind of been redeemed because he writes for Salon.
Oh my goodness.
Become a total
that is
lib.
correct.
Every time I've been correct. Jared, you've been there. Remember, every single time with young people, I'm just like,
It's true. It's true.
Well,
Yeah.
see, I was the young conservative on TV, and then I just became a weed, Bitcoin, and hacking libertarian when I went to university. So I'm not so far gone.
well, are you still that now, or have you come back a little bit, or are you still Bitcoin weed hacking?
I'm obviously joking about the weed and Bitcoin.
I don't know.
It's interesting because I'm seeing. I want an extremely small government, but people all in the Libertarian Party and outside it say, "Oh, you're a fake libertarian because I have personally conservative principles, right? I don't want to do drugs. I don't think we should encourage people to do drugs, but I also don't think that should be imposed by the government. So because I've got these conservative values that I would like to see in society but don't want forced on the government, I still get called a fake libertarian
Right.
a lot of the time, even though...
No, I get that too. I don't know if you ever saw.
That's not like you.
Well, I've been attacked by what's her name, token libertarian girl. I don't know, a few people, and I did a video on marijuana, several. And the first thing I said is like, if states want to legalize it, they have that right. Absolutely. My problem is legalizing it based on a lie. The lies are we have an incredible incarceration rate of people who've just smoked weed. It doesn't happen. If you just smoke it, you don't go to prison. Okay, and then the other one is, well, it's medicinal. No, it's not. And if it is, it's already legal, right? It's already been patented. There are 7 drugs for marijuana that are patented from the compounds, because a drug can't just be a dirty bomb like weed, right? It's like, it would be like getting hammered as a drug. You'll feel less pain. So it's already been. When people say big pharma wants to suppress it, well, big pharma are the people who've patented these compounds from weed. You can patent anything. You can patent vitamin A and turn it into a retinol cream. It just doesn't work very well. It's not very effective. So, all these incarcerations, well, that's not true. Oh, it's medicine. Well, that's not true. Oh, it'll end the drug war. That's not true. None of those things are true. And so my issue is, yes, let states legalize it. I do believe a state should have the right to make it illegal if Texas wants to and California wants to make it legal. My only issue was people getting it legalized by lying to their voting constituency. And I've been told that I'm this paid by big pharma propagandist against weed.
I absolutely agree with you. This is something I hate about libertarians, and I'm going to get flack for this, but they always try, or a lot of them try to win by saying all of these things that libertarianism is going to bring are going to be good. Right. Everything is going to be solved by libertarianism. Oh, if you just legalize weed, that will get rid of drug addiction. Like, just like, if you legalize all the drugs, that will end the drug war, get rid of drug addiction. If you get rid of all the government, suddenly everything will fix itself. Well, no, there are going to be, libertarianism is not the one utopia system. No. It's going to have problems, and we are going to have things we are going to face because we don't have a government. Things like large mass immigration. That's why I'm a pro-borders libertarian. Right. Because there are going to be a lot of problems we are going to face with less government. However, I appreciate the libertarians who are there because it's a moral reason. They say, I understand that this may not come out with the best results, but morally, I don't think we can be the aggressors and force people to pay certain things. I don't think we can be the aggressors, force people not to do drugs. Right.
Well, and that's what I believe. I believe it's a state issue. And people are like, you're an authoritarian. I'm not. Denver, Colorado did it. They've had really bad results. They've actually had increases in crime. It's not created the revenue that they thought it would. It didn't work well for Denver. But if you say, hey, it didn't work well, more people are doing drugs, crime's not getting any better, we're not really making a ton of revenue, but you know what? I still want to get high, and the majority of the state votes that, that's fine. My only issue is with, the truth still matters.
That's why I love the states, because you've got your separate states where you can do your little experiments and compare them. I'd love to see 2 similar states, one where you've got tough on drug crime, one where you've got everything legalized, and see the difference. Well, that might be kind of cruel to the people to see how bad that experiment goes, but just actually see if the libertarians or the authoritarian conservatives are right on this. Because even though I don't want the authoritarian side, I would still admit I was wrong if it did end up that way.
Well, but I'm not even there's nothing authoritarian about saying states have the right to. For example, I don't believe in a federal Department of Education, right? But a state has every right to create public schools. And I would want to be in a state that does do so and does so effectively. For the longest time, up until the 60s, there was no federal Department of Education. They were state funded. The state has the right to do that. That's the whole system, is if you don't like it, you move to another state. So there's nothing authoritarian about saying, states have the right to enact laws that I don't really like and I feel are more intrusive than I'm comfortable with, but it's not outlined in the Constitution. So that's the thing. People don't understand that. It's different in Canada, obviously. What about now? One thing for me, like with the Gamergate community, you have these people who claim they're anti-authoritarian, and they get mad at people who are libertarian. If you go down the list, I'm much more libertarian on nearly everything, except for sort of modern capital L libertarian, but I'm pro-life. Whoa, you can't. Well, if you believe it, that's a different. If you believe it's a life, that is perfectly in line with libertarianism because it's about people having the right to life. Where do you line up on that?
See, that's a tough issue for me. I would consider myself personally more pro-life, and that would be something I would want. However, I think it's hard, especially in Canada. This is what I said when I was debating with the other candidates. It is hard to pass a law that would force women to go to coat hanger abortions or unsafe abortions, because that was a problem, having unsafe abortions that did happen. So it's hard to say, we're going to pass a law that is going to force women into that. However, have you heard of the violinist theory, the violinist theory of abortion? Like, as long as it can survive without you, you shouldn't be allowed to abort that child.
Yeah.
That's kind of the more libertarian non-aggression principle state. And I guess, like, personally, I would want to be more pro-life, but my libertarian, more moral leanings would say, okay, the violinist theory sounds the most proper to the Libertarian Party, which is if that child can survive without you, even with life support and all these things, you shouldn't be allowed to kill it or boot it out or abort it.
Well, that would make you conservative because that eliminates a huge portion of government-funded abortions in Canada. So,
well, we've got a big problem with infanticide as well. That's just not spoken about in Canada, where hundreds of kids are killed right out of the womb. And it's just not, it's something that we don't talk about in Canada, not even the conservatives.
Right.
Like, abortion's legal here. The conservatives don't even touch the topic.
Well, in Quebec, they have the highest abortion rate in the industrialized world, if Quebec was taken as a demographic next to the Black American community. But you're talking about the whole province of French Canadians. They have a huge abortion rate, super high teen pregnancy rate, super high dropout rate, non-existent marriage rate, really problem welfare. And people don't want to talk about it, but a big part of that's the culture of liberalism in French Canada. So I know we're a black eye on the Canadian flag. You're not big fans of our tribes, but I get it. All right, Lauren, we'll get this here for you for The Rebel, because this seems right up the Rebel's alley, and people can go over to my channel to watch the first half of the interview. Where can people best find you, and what are you working on next?
Yeah, they can find me on TheRebel.media or I gave you both these, my @Lauren_Southern Twitter. That's where I post a lot of my stuff. And this year, I'm going to be focusing on immigration in Canada and probably healthcare as well, since I think your video on healthcare came out a year ago.
Which
or
one?
Something. The one where you show why Obamacare, yay or nay.
Oh, that's like 5 years old. 5 or 6.
That was 5 years old?
Yeah, it was like 2009.
Yeah. A lot of the criticism you got on that video was, oh, well, you're in Ontario or wherever you were, so
right.
It's not like that across the rest of the country. That is a myth. It is awful here on this coast as well.
Yeah.
The fastest time I got into a clinic was when they called me in because they gave me the wrong medication, and then they told me that their medication that they gave me was going to kill my baby. And I was like, what are you on about? I am not pregnant. Am I the Virgin Mary? And they're like, oh, sorry, we've been mixing up your files with another woman who was pregnant for like a month now.
Oh, that's
giving me wrong. Oh, it's just insane the kind of stuff they mess up here too. So I was thinking of possibly doing a debunking of the criticisms of your video.
Oh,
possibly.
yeah, I'd welcome it. Well, and I was very open about it. I was like, listen, we presented the facts regarding national health care, regarding the ramifications. We provided those facts and data. It's undeniable. Now, the hospitals I went to all the hospitals that I went to my entire life. Charlemagne, and much. That's where I got my care because that's where I lived. That's what I knew. So we presented, okay, there's no denying the marginal tax rates. There's no denying the medical research across the country. There's no denying wait times and survival rates. All of those were included in the video. Those are stats. And then the personal connection of this is where I went to hospitals. That's why I did it. So, I mean, I can't refute people like, well, my hospital's good here in Winnipeg. Well, I can't. That's entirely anecdotal. Maybe it is. I can't refute that. But in Montreal, it was awful. When I went to the United States, I felt like hospitals were like hotels. I couldn't believe how fast they were and how nice some of them were.
So you should have done undercover in the States as well.
I should have. Yeah, it's those are just hard and long to do with the undercover stuff. But okay, well, I'm looking forward to it. I will. Well, if you get that up, we will get that up on the site and get that out there. Do me a favor. Let's point so people, because we're going to put in some annotations where people can click on either those videos or Rebel Media. If you're watching, see, there you go. Look, she's doing a little dance. She's doing a dance. There's no cleavage, but she gives you a dance.
Yes, I apologize. Eventually. No, I'll do one of the classic libertarian girl things or the conservative where they've just got the guns and the bikini.
Oh, gosh. I know. All right. Well, listen, I'll talk with you here after we go to black. But if you're watching this, subscribe. Thank you, Lauren Southern. We must go. Oh, it's you. Glad to see you again. If you like this video, subscribe by clicking my face or the button above. Hey, remember that time when I said I was glad to see you again? I lied.